Summary of The Way Up to Heaven by Roald Dahl. In New York City, Mrs. Foster lives on the 6th floor with her bossy husband, Eugene Foster. She was meant to take a plane to Paris to see her daughter and grandchildren, but her husband is behind schedule and can't make it with her. Her husband knows that she is deeply afraid of being late for events, but he still waits until the very last minute to get ready. He could be doing this by chance, but the narrator says it's also possible that he wants to see her suffer. Even though they're a little late, Mrs. Foster and the driver are sure she can still make it to the airport on time. Fog is coming in, which is bad news. The plane will be late for an unknown amount of time. Mrs. Foster is happy to be at the airport by herself because she won't miss her flight. But it gets dark, and people are told to come back in the morning. Mrs. Foster calls her husband, even though she is afraid he will somehow stop her from getting on the plane. He wants her to stay with him at home even though the housekeepers have already left for vacation. He asks her to drop him off at the club that night on the way to the airport in the morning. She agrees, but only grudgingly. She starts to think that he is doing everything he can to stop her from going on her trip. Before leaving the next morning, they remember that Mr. Foster left their daughter a gift at home, so they are late getting in the car. He won't leave, even though Mrs. Foster begs him to, so she can get to her flight on time. He goes back inside instead. For now, Mrs. Foster finds the gift he talked about stuck between the seats as if with the help of a pushing hand. The driver is supposed to get her husband, but she decides it would be faster if she did it herself. When she was about to unlock the door, she stopped by a sound that she could not clearly identify. With a more commanding tone and a different look on her face, she tells the driver that they need to leave right away to avoid being late and that her husband will just take a taxi to the club. She has fun in Paris with her daughter and grandkids, writes home once a week, and comes back after 6 weeks. She finds the place empty and smelling awful, but she has a little glimmer of satisfaction on her face. She makes a phone call to the elevator repair company and requests that they come fix their elevator. The implication is that her husband has been trapped in the elevator the entire time she has been gone, and she left him to die.
About the author. Roald Dahl was born in Wales in 1916. His father and one of his sisters both got sick and died when he was 3 years old. In Boy, Tales of Childhood, he writes about his happy summers with his family in Norway and his terrible times at British boarding schools, where he was hit, adults were careless, and older students abused their power. In later years, he was a pilot in the Air Force and an intelligence officer during World War II. After that, he wrote books for adults and kids. She was an American actor, and he married her in 1953. They had 5 children together. Olivia, their first child, died young from measles, and even worse, his wife Patricia had brain tumors while she was pregnant with their 5th child. She did get better though, and they stayed married until 1983, when Dahl married Felicity Crossland again. Over 50 short stories, 2 autobiographies, 20 books for kids, and several film and TV plays, some of which were based on his own books, were written by him. He died in 1990.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.